Hello, my name is Dawn. I am Yarn as a Sport, and I'd like you to come and play ball with me. The first thing I'd like to do is to thank some people that have been very encouraging. That would be Nancy with She's Got Yarn Too, LynnAnne with Nina's Knots Crochet, and Sweet Rachel with Night Sky Knitting. They've all said, just do this, be yourself, don't worry. I'm going to do this first one as an introduction, let you know a little bit about me, and then my name is Dawn. My husband and I retired a year ago in September, and today is, I think, the 19th, I think it's the 19th of November in 2022. We sold our two-story yellow house in the suburbs of Chicago, and I am now in what we refer to as Eddie, which is the RV. We've tried to purchase houses. We have traveled some. It's been interesting. I am a military Navy brat. Our RV is 34 feet long, and there are times when it seems like it's 12 feet long, and there's other times when I'm trying to look for a particular item that it seems like it's 84 feet long. There is work to an RV. He's in charge of the outside, I'm in charge of the inside. You have to be very selective in what you bring, and that has been not fun. He told me I could have 100 pounds of yarn and no dyeing, which I haven't had an interest in the dyeing at this point, but the fact that he knows about that, close quarters. And he wouldn't let me bring Ruby Sue, who was my mannequin. Now, if you know, you know. My maiden name is Griswold, and my dad's name is Clark. And that's all that we're going to say about that. I do a lot of fiber arts. I have probably since I've been 5, and I'll be 60 in a couple weeks. I'm going to try not to do the ums. I started out hand sewing, making clothes for my Barbies and my dolls. I learned knitting through brownies in first grade, 5 years old. My brownie leader was Mrs. Pat Muzzer in Connecticut. I learned crochet, Tunisian. I had sewing lessons, which it's kind of like learning to drive a car. You're probably best not to necessarily learn from your parents, depending. I learned the basics from a Singer sewing class. My grandmama bought my mom a new sewing machine, and it came with lessons, and they allowed me to take what they had, summer sewing, like a camp. You went one day for, I think, 4 weeks. And they taught you your pattern and fabric selection, pinning and cutting, and then sewing it together. I also embroider. I've done that probably since I've been 5, 6 years old also, with the cross stitch, that my mom would iron on. Artex. I think I did that when that was the first thing I think I did. And those are the paint tubes that are like ballpoint pens in the end of them. I Tunisian, I needle tat, shuttle tat, rug hook, quilt, design, alter, and sew, spinning, spindle and wheel, I'm sure there's a couple other. I'll probably list those or maybe show something once in a while, but I am going to try to keep this with knitting and crochet, Tunisian. There will be some yarn purchases because they have to be selective and small. They won't be hauls while I'm in the RV. I can perhaps one day demonstrate the wonderful places there are to put your stash when you're in the RV. We have overhead compartments that lift out, and one of them is for my husband's tools to use inside that I use also, and things for him. And then I have one that has yarn in it. And I don't know, it's got to be at least 3 times he's been looking for something and opened my compartment and had yarn fall out on him. And he's like, it's like a stacked locker. Well, he was a little more upset when he found what was in with his golf clubs, but it kept them from rattling, and it gave me a place to put some extra yarn. I have, with my dad in the Navy, been stationed in Hawaii, California, New York, Connecticut, Idaho, and we were restationed in Connecticut, which being restationed is not common. I guess it is when you do 20 years, but I also have lived in Kansas, Wisconsin, Florida, briefly on Cape Cod. I've traveled to Mexico, Canada. I've been in every state in the United States except Alaska. And I just remembered I do beading, loom, and knitting, and I can't think of the word they use, but when you do it through the netting with the hook, I've done that. I've done, just on fabrics. I have a wonderful daughter. She's 25. She is the joy of my life. Her name, she informed me a few years ago, was a breed of sheep, which I had no idea at the time I did. name her. That was not the reason she was named. And I looked it up and researched it, and I told her, oh, but it's an expensive yarn and desired and coveted. That didn't necessarily appease her. She's very talented also. She does props and costumes for anime. And I think that's probably all that I will talk about her. She's private, and I'll be selective, and I did tell her I would be selective. As for my husband, our dads were best friends growing up. I told him when we were 12 years old that I told my mom and dad that we were going to be married. I told him, I think when he was 14, that we would be married. It took him 37 years to ask me out. And he told me that his dad told him when he was a young man that I know I was one of his favorites, but he told my husband that if he broke my heart, he'd help my dad beat him up. I don't know that that was exactly what was said, but we'll go with that. I will try to keep these to 20 minutes, and my goal is once a week, but that will depend upon where I'm located, if I'm in a house or the RV, and what my 60-year-old toddler is doing. I have recorded, this will be the 5th time I have tried to record. This is my first one doing just an introduction. And I was pleased with a couple of them, but one of them, I had a ring light and it was like Little Orphan Annie on my glasses. If you don't know who that is, just don't worry about it. I had overhead noises from helicopters and trains, not overhead from trains, train noises. One of the times for where we were, I had my husband coming in and out telling me that he wasn't going to make any noise, but just a little bit of noise picks up a lot of times. And one time I did not have the volume up and it didn't record. I am going to try to do them without editing as well. I am what my daughter refers to as a Luddite, and I'm proud of it. I was in healthcare, caregiving, nursing, private care, 30 years, and I took time off with my daughter. And I still at that point had helped some elderly neighbors. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to tell you that would be pertinent. Not really. I've been knitting over 50 years, on and off, crocheting. Love the fiber arts. I'm very privileged to have a husband who's supportive and encouraging. The biggest reason I'm getting into this is I've watched the podcasts about 2 years since we've been planning to retire, and through this last year of retirement. And when you're moving around, and it's a way to have relationships, community, and that is my biggest goal, is to find somebody I have things in common with, and as an outlet. She's got yarn right now, is doing a blanket drive with her mother. My mother was in a women's club, as was mine. And it is for a place in Florida called Boggy Creek. It was started by Paul Newman and General Schwarzkopf. And one of the purpose of this camp, it's all volunteer and all donation. And the purpose of it is so that children with medical issues, again going back to my nursing, that can't experience what other children do, can. There was a huge difference being in a school that was on base or military housing or civilian. If you haven't gone through what someone's experiencing, you can have sympathy, but the empathy makes a difference sometimes in a relationship. The kids that go there to this Boggy camp are there for a week. They divide up the illnesses so that they have, 1 week will be diabetic, 1 week will be blood issues, 1 week will be lung issues, 1 week will be cancer, 1 week will be, they do it, I want to say there's 11 different illnesses, and they have doctors and nurses that are there that can help with the issues that come up and help with the medications. What drew me more to this too is on the weekend, the parents and siblings can go. And that's just like having military school. Those kids that were my classmates knew what it was like to move every 12 to 24 months. They knew what it was like to have their dad gone 3 months, 18 months at a time without communication. A letter that was cut up and blacked out, maybe a picture. The parents will have other parents that they can talk to, resource, network, build a relationship, be able to talk to, and know that they understand. The siblings, which it has got to be hard for a parent, but just as hard for a sibling when they maybe aren't able to do all the things that they'd like to do without maybe feeling guilty, or maybe can't because of expenses, or maybe can't because of scheduling for the sibling that has the medical issues. And this is going to give them a place to be able to build relationships. I was able, my family was in contact with 2 families that we stayed in touch with from the time I was, I think, 2 for one, and I am still communicating with the mom. She's my godmother. And another family since I was in 5th grade, so 11 years old. just value those relationships. I still have a relationship with the daughter and somewhat the son and his wife. That's another issue. My mom's best friend had a daughter that married the son of my godmother. So it's getting on 20 minutes. I'll have the information down below, but they are looking for blankets. Acrylic is great because it's easy to care for. It's for Boggy Creek. They give them a gift bag at the end of the week, and a blanket's in there, a teddy bear's in there. Boggy Creek has information. Those are sewn. They have a particular pattern. It's their mascot pattern. But I would like to challenge you to do one of these blankets a month. They'd like them to be 35 to 40 inches wide and 40 to 50 inches long. They could be 40 inches round. They could be 40 inches square. They'll take anything with the yarn, but please do label, let them know what the yarn content is and the care, particularly if it is not acrylic. And I want to thank you for getting through my first 20 minutes of rambling, and I have 12 things planned, and I'm hoping you'll join me. So I'd like to invite you to go play ball, and again, thank you for joining me. I am Yarn is a Sport.